A lot of people have been criticizing this new citizenship by investment program in Sierra Leone, where you need to donate $140,000 to receive Sierra Leonean citizenship in West Africa. People say, why would you ever do this? It's a terrible passport. For the same price, you can get Vanuatu, you can get Nauru. The number of countries one can travel to is not the only determining factor in a passport strength. In this particular case, the target market is very clear. Having lived in West Africa, I can tell you that the clients are going to be Chinese, Indian, and Lebanese business people living in West Africa who want unfettered access to West Africa, because Sierra Leone is part of ECOWAS, and when you are a member of ECOWAS and when you have an ECOWAS passport, you can live very easily in Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast. They are the target market.
All right. Welcome to this week inside Sierra Leone. This is a special episode of Pan-African Perspectives, where we are covering the breaking news on the Sierra Leone citizenship by investment update. Just to give you guys a little bit of some background, you guys know we talk about investments on the continent of Africa. We talk about citizenship in Africa, and we talk about all things in between. So before we get into that, I'm going to do a quick introduction. My name is Joe Hatagwa. I am the founder of Authentic African. I also co-host a live stream infrequently, but every once in a while, with Sierra Leoneans Killing It, and specifically Admire Demo, who runs the Sierra Leoneans Killing It page. That's why we are live on that page. And today we have some conversations about Sierra Leone. You just saw a clip from The Wandering Investor. He does citizenship by investments conversations about all countries around the world: Caribbean, Latin America, Africa, Asia, Europe. He has these conversations all the time. And he's particularly been interested in Sierra Leone over the last couple of years, because Sierra Leone has recently sought out a new citizenship by investment, or CBI, scheme, as some people call it. So what is citizenship by investment generally? It is exactly what it sounds like. Usually it's people paying to get citizenship. Now, in some cases, they'll say, we want you to invest in something, we want you to start a business, etc. Let me walk you through what this quote unquote go for gold, which is some people calling it, or the citizenship by investment program looks like. Now, I do want to mention, so those of you who already know, you already know this, so we don't really need to get too deep into this. Anybody who wants to do a Google search, you can do a Google search. So we're not going to bore people who have this information already too much with new information or this old information. But those of you who are new, what does this mean? Sierra Leone has been offering citizenship in a number of different ways for the last 10 years or so, a little bit longer than that, for a number of different people. I myself got citizenship in Sierra Leone because both my parents were born in Sierra Leone. That is naturalization through, I think, well, actually, that's one form of citizenship. I don't even remember the category it falls under. They also have the accession, citizenship. And that's for people who do DNA. Your DNA comes from anywhere in West Africa, through one of any of the three major, DNA platforms and companies, and you can get citizenship in Sierra Leone. Now, the mention of who's good for the citizenship by investment program is why this came up, because there are those who don't fall in those first two categories that I just mentioned, who also want to get citizenship in Sierra Leone. And as he mentioned on that video, it has been controversial. People have a lot of questions about it. There are a lot of things that people feel about this citizenship by investment program. And so I'm going to give you a bit more about it so you understand the citizenship by investment program. And then we're going to talk through what the new updates are, because there's some new updates. So the CBI program offers a fast track route to citizenship with two main pathways. There's a standard $140,000 investment for citizenship within 90 days. And there's a reduced $100,000 investment for individuals of African ancestry. So there's two ways people with African ancestry can get citizenship in Sierra Leone, which gives you free reign to travel all around West Africa without visas, as was mentioned in that earlier video. Number one, you can do the homecoming process through African ancestry, 23andMe, and CBI genetics or genomics, whatever the name of the company is. And then you can come on a trip, 2 trips within 12 months in order to receive your citizenship. There are some challenges there with the most recent crop. So that is a conversation for a later time, and I absolutely want to get into that. But that is something that I'm waiting for more insight and information on. But there is something ongoing there. That program is always, well, hasn't always been in place, but has been in place for the last couple of years. This new process is saying if you fall into that category, you can pay $100,000 and you can get citizenship in 60 days. So 60 days to process your citizenship and get citizenship. I will say there are folks that have already done this. The Wandering Investor has it on his website where he has had people who have paid the $140,000 investment to get citizenship within 90 days in Sierra Leone. That is a much faster process than the other process that I recently mentioned, which is about $5,000, requires 2 trips. So I hope that that's clear and it's not confusing to anyone, because there are a lot of moving pieces as it pertains to citizenship in Sierra Leone. You guys let me know if that's confusing. You have any questions, put that in the comments. More than happy to clarify if necessary. Real quick, let's go through the CBI, Citizenship by Investment program, with more details and the benefits and all of that. And then I'll get into this recent update. You guys might have seen I did a live stream about this last year when it first came up, because a lot of us didn't think it was true. It wasn't available on the government website. It wasn't anywhere but some memo that came from an individual from South Africa. And a lot of people were confused about how somebody who's living in South Africa sent out a memo and there is no details on the government website. And so that's why when we first started talking about this, we were like, I don't really know if this is a real thing. Well, it is real. It is real. And people are getting citizenship through this method. Question, Kathy Lake 9072 has, what happened with the latest group? They were supposed to get citizenship in December. As I said, this is going to have to be a conversation for a later time where we do a deep dive into this. I'm not 100% sure they will be issued their passports in December. Those people who went on their trip last December, because if you remember, or last November, I don't know if it was November or December of last year when they went to Sierra Leone. I do remember in April of last year, they skipped it. They didn't have it at all. April of last year, they only had it at the end of last year because it was a new person that was responsible for this. So Yahidad 4457 says it's very confusing. Does that mean that we can't go through African ancestry anymore for 5K? No, does not mean that. You have 2 different routes. 2 different routes. If your you have 2 different routes if your parents are not from Sierra Leone. The 2 routes are as follows. 5K, within 12 months, you can come back and get your citizenship and get your passport. There have been some complications with that, is what I'm saying. I'm not 100% sure those people who went last December, who have already booked tickets for this December, are getting passports. I'm not 100% sure. That is still being discussed and still being worked out. So I don't know what happened with the last batch. We will know what happened with the last batch next month. I just do know that there is some conversation and some questions about whether or not they are going to get that citizenship. That's what I do know. I'm working to get some more details for you guys, but I don't want to spend too much time on that because that is a whole separate thing from the Citizenship by Investment. I just want to make sure you guys are aware there are multiple options. Now, obviously, Citizenship by Investment speaks to a very different group, because this is people who are willing to spend $100,000 or $140,000 to fast track citizenship. As mentioned in that video that was talking about Indian nationals, Lebanese nationals, Chinese nationals, right? People who are looking for the ability to easily travel around West Africa without a visa, to do more business around West Africa. And a lot of them are using the Sierra Leone Citizenship by Investment program in order to do that. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, there's two forms. There's the fast track nationalization for those who do not have African descent. So it grants citizenship in approximately 90 days for a total of $140,000, which includes all program, legal, and documentation fees. The other one is the heritage, that's the fast track naturalization. The heritage naturalization grants citizenship in approximately 60 days, total investment of $100,000 for individuals of African ancestry who can prove their heritage via a DNA test. It doesn't say specifically West Africa. It just says African ancestry. So very different from the other program that I mentioned that I don't want to spend too much time on because I don't want to confuse people too much. That other program still exists, still in flux, but it's West African heritage for that one. This one says African heritage. Now, Kathy Lake says, let's be real, no one is going to pay $100K from the Black diaspora. You may be right. You may be right. So the key benefits: efficient processing, citizenship can be attained in as little as 60 or 90 days. Obviously, an ECOWAS passport provides visa-free access to simplified residency within the economic community of West African states. As I mentioned before, it was much easier for me to get residency in Ghana already having a Sierra Leone passport. The Gold for Gold Club membership also provides benefits like discounted gold purchases. According to this, concierge services, travel benefits. You can do a remote application. So the entire application and approval process can be completed remotely without the need to travel to Sierra Leone. Now that's interesting, right? Think about this. Think about how many people want to be able to, who are wealthy people, who want to be able to collect passports, do business around a certain block of Africa, and can do that from wherever they are. They can send money, get their citizenship, and then be able to travel around West Africa within 60 or 90 days, depending on their heritage and the process that they follow. So the question, Yahidad says, and is it true that we can live in any other ECOWAS countries with a Sierra Leone passport? You can. You pay less for overstaying, your stay, right? They stamp you for usually like 90 days when you come into a country that's under ECOWAS. Generally, if you stay longer, you do have to pay like a monthly fee for every month over you stay. It's nothing like in the United States where you overstay your visa and they kick you out. Now, as far as getting residency, it's a lot easier when you're an ECOWAS member. No need to pay visas in other ECOWAS countries. That is correct. If you have a Sierra Leonean passport and you're going to go to any one of the other economic community of West African state countries, you can enter into that country without a visa. So as an American citizen, if you want to go to Nigeria, you have to have a visa. If you want to go to Senegal, you have to have a visa if you only have a U.S. passport. If you have a Sierra Leone passport, you do not need a visa to enter those countries. Sierra Leone citizenship seems more welcoming to Black African Americans. That's what Farquan is saying. Yeah, I mean, that's what some people would say, for sure. Kathy Lake says, I would pay the $5K for the fast 90 days and not have to travel to get the passport. Most would. I would pay $5K for the fast 90. Yeah, well, that's, to be clear, that's not an option. That is not an option today. So I just want to be very clear on that. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would do that. But that is not an option today. What is the 30K? I will get to that in a moment because that is the new the new thing that they're doing for the citizenship by investment. I want to make sure I address your questions, but also get through what the citizenship by investment program is, so you understand it. Then we'll talk about this additional 30K thing that is going on. All right. So financial flexibility. Sierra Leone is not a signatory to the Common Reporting Standards, CRS, offering greater flexibility for financial structuring. So use cryptocurrency of acceptance. Investment and application fees can be paid using cryptocurrency. Family option. This allows for the inclusion of dependents such as children, siblings, multiple spouses, and grandparents. And citizenship is hereditary. So you see all the different benefits of people paying for this. And you can also see how this could be exploited by different kinds of people, right? So let's think about how all of the former corrupt presidents of the continent of Africa used the citizenship by investment program to get citizenship in the UK during Tony Blair's time in the 90s, right? Many people went and got citizenship in the UK in the 90s when Tony Blair offered a citizenship by investment program. The United States offers a citizenship by investment program now. You can see how people who have cash, who operate in the illicit markets, can now get citizenship and move around in different places, and they don't have to do it through the back door. They can do it right through the front door. I'm not going to call out any specific names or examples, but you guys have heard us talk about these things before. Think about who might have done this through the back door. Think about now they don't have to do that anymore. Farquan says, which ECOWAS country is easiest to acquire citizenship when you are African American? Well, the answer to that question is Sierra Leone. SLs is the only country seemingly welcoming us back and then saying the last batch didn't get their passport is so disheartening. Like I said, I did not say they didn't get their passport. I'm not 100% sure they are getting it. That's what I said. I did not say they're not getting it, because I do not know. Be very clear. I do not know. All right. I do not want my language to be misconstrued at all. Okay. Very clear. Now, it would be disheartening if they don't get it. For sure. 100%. I agree with you on that piece. Let's see what happens in December. I think Ghana is second to Sierra Leone in terms of getting citizenship, but it's not as straightforward, right? It's citizenship in Ghana is done through executive order at this point in time. It's not a legislative action. So therefore, that means that each president has their own discretion to how they want to do it. And the former president and the current president both have been in talks with many groups, right? The former president, Akufo-Addo, actually gave 800 people citizenship in an 8-month span. And then prior to that, he had done a couple of citizenship ceremonies with executive order to about 200 people, if I'm not mistaken. So yes. All right. So additional features to the program. The program package includes due diligence checks and comprehensive support throughout the application process. Citizens gain the ability to open bank accounts in Sierra Leone. There is an option to add a business partner for an additional fee. So that was the question that was asked. This is the answer. I'm going to play this video from the Wandering Investor. He is going to explain what exactly this new update to the citizenship by investment looks like, because it is a very different thing. And I want to just leave it to them to have this discussion. I will jump in from time to time, just, for copyright reasons. But I will get this up on the screen so you guys can hear from them directly. Should I make myself smaller? There we go. Listen to these two folks, not of African descent, talking about citizenship by investment, because you'll notice that is who is the most likely candidates for something like this.
Hello everyone, Ladislas Maurice with the Wandering Investor, today in beautiful Freetown in Sierra Leone in West Africa, and we have breaking news concerning the Citizenship by Investment program here, together with Stephen, who's the program architect. Stephen, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a really good day today. First day of the delegation, another 3 to go, possibly 4. Looks like we'll extend it. Going great.
Yeah, so Stephen has invited us as well as a few of our clients to come down to Sierra Leone to meet government officials, to discover Freetown, to get a better understanding of the program, of the city, of the opportunity of ECOWAS as well. We'll discuss.
Can I say something really quickly? I'd like to believe that immigration officer shook his hand because he recognizes him and has seen him come back before. But let me tell you something about when you go to the immigration office, you do not get that handshake treatment when you get there. Okay, I just want to be very, very, very clear. That does not happen. But I've talked about this on the interview I did with Ivy Prosper recently. You got to understand how people who are not of African descent are generally treated when they come to Sierra Leone, sometimes Ghana, and sometimes other countries on the continent of Africa. I digress. Let's get back to it.
This a little bit more, but you just announced just literally 3 hours ago that there are changes to the program.
Yeah, we didn't want the market to understand out the starting gate that we wanted to actually undergo a product market testing fit exercise. We didn't want to foist a particular type of structured program onto the market. We wanted to understand what would be the best approach from a design perspective, anticipating the objective, which is to attract foreign direct investment. So having now gone through the process with 13 families and understood what the market actually...
Did you guys hear that? 13 families. 13 families have paid $140,000. Okay? 13 families. Now, I don't do math in public, so you know I'm going to get out my calculator to calculate the revenue. That's over $1 million, obviously. But let's do the math really quickly. So 13 times 140, 1, 2, 3 zeros. That is $1.8 million in the last 1 year since this program has been into effect. Now, you see how quick money changes things, right? You get your citizenship in 60 days. You get your citizenship in 90 days. But the people who are doing a $5,000 program are unsure if they're getting their citizenship in 12 months, right? Just calling out the differences so you guys understand. But you see who's in charge of a program like this, Citizenship by Investment program, how quickly it moves and what's happening, versus the other program, which is citizenship based on, your heritage. Now, to be clear, I got my citizenship within a week because my parents were born in Sierra Leone. So that program was a very cheap program. At that time, I paid $100 and something, and I got my citizenship in Sierra Leone. That was a quick process. It's not $100 now. I think it's a little more than that, or around a little more than that. But my point is, this is the difference between these two programs, right? Now, I don't want to spend too much time harboring on that, but I just wanted to make sure you got an understanding of that situation. Let's add it back to the stage. Let's go. 13 families. 13.
Needs from a program like this. We've been able to make recommendations to the Chief Immigration Officer as to how we could enhance the program, and after extensive deliberations and determinations, we've been able to finalize the design specification, and we announced that to the world today.
So we got to meet the Chief Immigration Officer this morning. Really nice man.
Indeed.
We went to his office. So during the initial 6 months of the program, the deal was $140,000 for a single applicant and then $10,000 per dependent. So essentially a spouse, parents, and children.
Yeah, indeed.
But now there are quite a few changes.
So we have 3 classes of dependents. Normal dependents, who are charged at $10,000 per head. These are the normal spouse, children under the age of 18. And now we've added grandparents too.
All right, so let's quickly stop at that. $10,000 per head for dependents. So that means if you pay the $140,000, it's $10,000 per head, right? So your spouse is $10,000, they automatically become a citizen. The children under 18 is $10,000, they automatically become a citizen. Parents of the main applicant can also become a citizen for $10,000, and grandparents of the main applicant can become citizens for $10,000. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Let me tell you. If someone of European descent pays the $140,000 to get citizenship, then pays $10,000 for their parents to get citizenship, their siblings can go through the process that I went through to get citizenship, which is like $100, right? Because once your parents are citizens, you now qualify for citizenship. Now, it may be a little tricky. I don't know if it's exactly that same process, but from the Wandering Investor's original discussion about how you can pass on citizenship to your children, he had mentioned, after speaking to folks in the administration, once you have citizenship, your children can get citizenship. Does that make sense to everybody? Is everyone clear on that? Now, Kathy says that's not right. They should only get permanent residency and a passport, so they are not citizens and can't own land. Well, that ship has sailed. Sorry if this was discussed before, but what if one of my parents was born in Sierra Leone but no longer here? How would I get it? You have to be able to prove that they were born in Sierra Leone. Pretty C 5454. You do have to prove it. What is the is there an age limit? Yeah, for children, they say children under 18, right? So you have to be 18 at least. And then you have to go through other processes if you are 18. No, these people should not be able to pass citizenship down to their children. That's crazy. Well, that is how it works, you know. And at the end of the day, most countries have a version of that, though, right? Once you become a citizen, it does become easier for your children to become citizens, right? In particular, it happens in the United States, right? So, you know, I think, you know, I get what everyone's feeling, right? It feels like Africa should be ours, but that ship has sailed. That's already sailed. So if we want to change how Africa's being treated to reduce exploitation, we got to get involved, right? Which is why I share this information with everybody, so everyone's aware of what's happening. This is the job that I'm doing. This is the part that I can play, right? Is to share this information for all of you out there. And you need to pass this on to people so that they know that this is happening, that this is available, or that it's happening. However, whatever side of the aisle you are on this, you should pass this information on to as many people as you can so that they know. Kathy says they need to work something out with African ancestry where we can get the same 90-day citizenship program for $5,000. They should. They should. I will say it is a different group. So this is the ministry. What was it? The Minister of Immigration, or was it? I can't remember what the group this was through. But the other program that we've talked about is through Monuments and Relics. It's through a completely different department in the government of Sierra Leone. It's Monuments and Relics. It's not immigration. So that 5,000 that people normally, you know, get their passports through is a different program and different group altogether. That's Monuments and Relics, not immigration. Don't know why, but I will have someone on in the near future to talk through that and explain why it's Monuments and Relics and not another group. But yes, I agree. There should be a faster track for those of us of African citizens or African ancestry who were trafficked during the transatlantic slave trade. I agree 100%. That is not the case today. Let's go.
That category of normal dependents. We have a special dependent category, which anticipates multiple spouses, which anticipates.
All right. So that question that was a little earlier, what about children over 18? Now, here's what's interesting. You might wonder, well, the first one, adult children of main applicants, 20,000. So that's why I was saying 30,000, 10,000 for certain people, 20,000 for other. That's why I said the 30,000. So that answers the $30,000 question that you had asked before. 20,000 for one, 10,000 for another group. Now, that second one, why does it say additional multiple legal spouses? You might ask, where does that apply? And you think about other people who are investing on the continent, let's say from what is now called the Middle East, UAE, Saudi Arabia, these places where people do have multiple legal spouses. This now applies to them. They're now not excluded from this process. They can now engage in this process. So, siblings of the main applicant under 30 for $20,000. Spouse of the main applicants included sibling. Children of included siblings under the age of 18. Last remaining relative of main applicant can also get it for $20K. This is the new expansion. So the original was $10,000 for these different people, for different people. They've expanded to other members of the family for additional $20,000. 13 people paid $140,000. Now more people can pay more and bring on more family members. Now, some people would say this is an example of chain migration. And I would not disagree. All right, so let's get back to the video.
It's family members of spouse, accompanying spouse of the main applicant, including their children and their partner, and a wider approach to seeking to qualify those family members who would ordinarily fall into a family unit for the purposes of a new citizenship initiative. So we don't want families to say no. We don't want the foreign direct investment intentions to fail just because we've been very tight in understanding how family units are constructed. Most CBI programs think about the nuclear family model, but that's clearly not appropriate in certain contexts, such as, the Middle East, such as Africa, indeed. So it became very obvious to us that we needed to think about the family from a wider perspective and anticipate that they should be able to participate, which they can now do, for $20,000. I think the real big positive change is that the market told us that if main applicants were participating in the program in order to invest, typically they have business partners. They don't want to invest by themselves. That the opportunity for them to include a business partner into the program specifications would enhance the ability to actually deliver on the intention to attract foreign direct investment. So now we offer a business partner incentive. It's called the +1 business partner incentive for $30,000.
So
that's the other $30,000 points to be made. So now you get your citizenship and you want to bring a business partner over. You pay the $140,000, you pay another $30,000, and you can get your business partner citizenship. Now that business partner can now work to get citizenship for other family members. You can see how those who have cash, who want to do business in West Africa, can come through Sierra Leone and make that happen. Now Sierra Leone, as a country, gets this cash. Business, though, will be done throughout West Africa. But think about all the mining companies that are in Sierra Leone in particular, where there are people who come to do business there in mining but don't have citizenship. Now they want to get citizenship. Well, they can. And these people do have this kind of cash. And there are a lot of people in this world, believe it or not, who have this kind of cash, who are willing to spend it to get citizenship somewhere where they can park their money, where they can move it around easily, where they can move around West Africa easily and do business. These are all things that are going to be really, really attractive to folks who have multiple spouses, who have business partners, who want to get citizenship for their children outside of their country of origin. Just imagine how this will grow over the next couple of years and who will become citizens over the next couple of years. We already see a pretty large contingent from outside of the continent living in West Africa, specifically in Sierra Leone and in neighboring countries. Imagine now what this will look like as this program grows. 13 families in 6 months, as stated in that video. What do you think that'll look like over the next 6 years, right? Jada, I'm going to get to your question in a second. Not necessarily applicable, but just to say that I said I paid 100. I didn't know how much citizenship is for people who were born in Sierra Leone and who are looking to get their citizenship. I do need to check on that, because what Jada was quoted is a lot more than I was anticipating. But we'll get to that in a second, Jada, because I do want to talk to you about that. And maybe you and I should talk separately and offline about that. I don't know if you've already paid it, but you and I should definitely talk. Now let's get back to the video.
This is huge. It means that if you're two unrelated people from a family point of view, you can now pool your application, and it'll cost you $175,000, which means $87,000 and a half, including due diligence fees, including all fees really. And that'll be the most affordable citizenship by investment program for two unrelated parties applying together. So this now beats Sao Tome if you're two applying. If you're on your own, Sao Tome is still more affordable. If you're two, Sierra Leone is more affordable, but then Sierra Leone offers ECOWAS Access, which is huge. Can you elaborate a little bit on what is ECOWAS and why that is so important?
Well, you know, Sierra Leone itself is a small market. It's only got 8 million people, but its access to ECOWAS, the Economic Cooperation of West African States, which is like the EU of West Africa, creates a market of more than 450 million people, including Nigeria, for example. So the ability to participate.
Now that number 450 million, the crazy thing is 119 million of that 400 million is all in Nigeria. Is it 120 million? I'll get that number for you in a second, but let's keep playing.
Participating in this program gets you residency and freedom of movement into those jurisdictions. So Sierra Leone can be your launching point, and it then enables you to move into other jurisdictions in the ECOWAS grouping. In fact, some of our first citizens have specifically participated in the program because they want to have regular access to Ghana, for example, which is difficult to get visas for. Nigeria, because you've got to be able to sit across the table when you're negotiating there as a fellow African. And just
you got to be able to sit across the table in Nigeria as a fellow African, and now you get to become one for the price of $140,000. So I misquoted the number of citizens or people in the country of Nigeria. 237 million people as of late 2025 is the estimate of the number of people in Nigeria today. So 450 million people in ECOWAS, 200 plus million of them are in Nigeria. Some people say 237, some people say 245, some people say 219. The number is over 220 million. It could be 240 million. Let's just say it's 240 on an average of 240 million people in Nigeria out of the 450 million people that are in ECOWAS. So as he mentioned, people who are looking to do business in Nigeria can now say, listen, I'm an African just like you, my brother. I'm a Sierra Leonean. Look at my passport. Let's get back to the, listen, that's just what I'm saying they can say. All right. Let's get back into the video.
Countries like Gambia and other places, Cape Verde, that have got inherent attractions of their own, and where they're generally nice places to invest and nice places to live if you've got the wherewithal to deal with the immigration challenges associated with entering those markets.
What are some of the other changes?
So we also came to understand that if we're seeking to create the conditions to attract foreign direct investment, we should enable that to actually happen from a structural perspective. So all main applicants now get a locally incorporated company as part of the program fees and a guaranteed bank account for that.
Wow. So everyone gets a locally incorporated entity automatically and a bank account automatically, which is not automatic when you get citizenship with any other option. When I got my citizenship, I went through the process of getting a bank account, which took me 3 months to get a business bank account. It took me a week and a half, 2 weeks to get a regular bank account, but I did need to get a letter written from someone who already has a bank account with that bank to vouch for me and say, this guy's not a scammer. He's not a criminal. I vouch for him. And it was my cousin. I always gotta, give her a shout out. She wrote the letter for me so that I could get that bank account. And then when it came to starting a business, I had to go through the arduous process of starting a business. I had to send somebody to go through that process. That was done within a week. I don't even know what all the steps it took to do that because I was not the person doing it. I sent someone else, paid them. They went and did it all for me, but it was a long process. So what they're saying here is instead of going through all those processes, you can fast track it for $140,000. That is what they are saying. So there's a question. Yahidad says, does having Sierra Leone citizenship grant any opening to East Africa or just ECOWAS? It does not grant any openings per se. In fact, a U.S. passport traveling to East Africa is generally better than using a Sierra Leonean passport. That is just the fact of the matter. For example, when I went to Tanzania, I used my U.S. passport to do citizenship on arrival. You know who couldn't do that? Sierra Leone. When I went to Egypt, which is North Africa, I did I did visa on arrival. You know who can't do that? Sierra Leone. So unfortunately, for whatever reason, the continent of Africa makes it more difficult for other Africans from other parts of the continent to travel to their country than they do for Americans and Europeans. It is just how it is today. So unfortunately, no, if you got your ECOWAS passport, it works well within ECOWAS, that trading bloc of countries. It does not give you any specific benefits anywhere else on the continent outside of West Africa. There are countries that have talked about giving non-visa entry to their countries because you have an African passport, but one of those being Burkina Faso, but you're already a West African passport holder, so you would already be able to go there anyway. I heard that Kenya is offering something similar, and so maybe Kenya may be offering that. I'm not 100% sure if they're there yet. Visa-free entry for all Africans. We got to double check that if they've actually launched that. They get to establish a business. That's not cool. That's what you said, right? To be clear, that's not what I'm saying. Somebody said that. That was Yahidad said that. Iman says, so you think it's worth the 30K? Well, remember, it's not 30K. It's 140K plus 30K for a business partner. It's not 30K. So it's 145K plus 30K. So it's $175,000 or $87,000 each for two business partners. Just to be clear, that 30K covers a business partner, 20K covers a certain class of family members, and 10K covers another class of family members. This is a separate program for the Citizenship by African Descent program. Absolutely. Very different program for sure. Is a Canadian passport any good in Africa? Certain parts of Africa, yes, it makes it easier to get visa on arrival in certain countries. Yes. West Africa doesn't do a lot of visa on arrival. Ghana does it during the December holiday, but I don't think they do it generally. And many other countries don't just offer that. So 54 countries in Africa, some countries yes, some countries no. You got to look at each country individually. All right. Let's get back into this video.
Entity with one of our banking partners, who are Sierra Leone Commercial Bank, who are government owned, or Access Bank, who are Nigerian listed, the biggest bank in Africa, 63 million customers throughout the continent.
That's interesting. So Access Bank or SLBC. So I wanted to listen to that part just to make sure you guys are clear. So Sierra Leone, SLBC, SLCB, well, whatever, Sierra Leone Commercial Bank. That bank is not one that everyone deals with. That is a government bank. Longer lines, a little bit more challenging to get funds and things like that. So not everybody is always excited about opening a bank account there. But Access Bank is different because Access Bank has branches all around West Africa. I don't know if it has access in other parts of the continent of Africa as well, if I'm not mistaken. I know that I've gotten money out of an ATM from an Access Bank in Ghana, in Nigeria, and in Sierra Leone. So I know it's at least in those three countries. And I think I saw an Access Bank in the Gambia as well. Can't remember if I saw it in Tanzania or Egypt, but I know for sure it's all over West Africa. It's a Nigerian bank all over West Africa. That one, I would imagine most people are going to end up putting their money in. Sorry, I just had to call that out just for, for reference for those of you thinking about bank accounts in West Africa.
And the banks are keen to create the conditions to support foreign direct investment, and the funds under management motif is the main game as far as the banks are concerned. They're not wanting.
Any other changes?
We've got the entire process now ensconced online, including documentation, verification, and notarization. So it's all about Zoom calls. You don't have to leave home. You don't have to go scrambling around in the snow looking for a notary to do something at last minute. So yeah, we've been able to consolidate everything into a 100% online application experience.
100% online application experience. And I'm going to leave the video there. If you guys want to watch that full video, you can watch it. There's only a couple, a minute or so left in that video. If you want to watch it, you can head over to his channel, whatever, find it. But interesting. 100% online. You see what money does around the world, but in particular on the continent of Africa. You can see that, right? I mean, and you can see how the wealthy who live here operate much differently from the rest of us, right? And I think that's what this shows, right? Look, people who are in that program that I was talking about, where I'm not 100% sure they're getting their citizenship in December, those folks have to come back again in 12 months, and we're not 100% sure they're getting their citizenship, right? So they may have already booked their ticket. They may have already taken time off of work. They may have already spent money and time planning a trip, gotten emotionally ready to come to the continent to get their passport, and they may not be getting it. And they spent $5,000 plus whatever it costs to take that second flight, right? And unfortunately, they may not get their passport. I don't know if they will, but they may not, at least not on this particular trip. So what does that mean? Do they get it later if they don't get it? When will they get it if they don't get it? You see how they've had to make the trip. They've had to go through a process. There's approved vendors, etc., right, in order to get citizenship. But those with $145,000 or $100,000 can do it from wherever they are in the world. Wherever they are in the world, they can do that. Yahida, sorry, I was mentioning your name wrong. Okay, Lamac says there needs to be some guardrails to how much farmland, mines, etc. can be owned by people who are not African by blood. This can get out of control. Next thing you know, according to Lamarck, next thing you know, they'll be allowing people to run for office. Then they'll be writing laws that further benefit them and marginalize us. Interesting perspective. I will say this. When you have laws in place saying that you have to be African, it gets murky. It gets real murky, because there are Dutch settlers who have been in Africa for 4 generations. 4 generations. They consider themselves of African descent, right? Their ancestors came to Africa 4 generations ago, just like many Americans consider themselves Americans. I know we don't talk about America as North America, but technically North Americans, right? So, and the Lebanese are in Sierra Leone, and, so it would be tough to be able to say you got to be of African descent, because how do you determine that? What about someone of mixed race? How do you determine that, right? It comes back to that whole conversation about reparations and who gets it and who doesn't, because there's a lot of interracial, intercultural partnerships, marriages, and offspring. So I do think it is a tough one, but I understand your sentiment completely, Lamac, but I think it's a much harder to do that. Yahida says, is this a new citizens? Okay. If there is this new citizenship scheme, the government of Sierra Leone should change the African descent programs to be close to free since they are getting the money they need by the other programs. Interesting thought process. Hopefully people in government hear that. Iman says, as much as we would like that Lamac gonna happen, Black people just need to wake up and move back and invest. I like the second part of what you said after the comma. Black people just need to wake up and move back and invest. And not everybody has to move back. And not everybody needs to invest for, let's say, altruistic purposes. I mean, at the end of the day, the continent benefits when we invest. And so we should consider it. And not only does the continent benefit, you benefit personally by investing. Tough one for, I think, a lot of people who are watching and keeping close eye on the citizenship programs across the continent. This one feels like a fast track for those who have the means. And I can tell people are very upset by this. There have been a lot of conversations that I've had with folks behind the scenes that I can't really talk about here, just, because these conversations were not public. But yeah, my goal is just to share this information so you all know it and you guys can decide how you want to respond to it. Do you want to do something about it by figuring out how you can take a part in doing what you can? Or do you want to stand on the sidelines and complain about it? I take the route of doing something about it. And my way of doing something about it is to share this more broadly. So if you found this useful, helpful, interesting, hit that thumbs up. Make sure that the algorithm shows it some love. If you know anybody who's interested in a program like this, who actually has the cash, feel free to send this to them. If you know anybody who would be upset by this and wants to do something about it, but something positive, right? Work on other ways to get other people citizenship, maybe paying their fees, right? The $5,000 to get other people citizenship. Maybe there are other ways that people can invest to get larger swaths of people coming and counteracting who's going to be coming from this side, the more wealthy folks. So there are ways that we can all participate. Jada, I can't post what you said. I'd like to survive. Thank you very much. But I will. You and I will talk later. Jada, I appreciate your anger though, and what you're saying. But I can't post that. So Yahida says, I hear that, Lyman, but what are we going to integrating ourselves back into? Just to be a quick lick? I mean, I think it depends on what you do, right? I mean, you got to go through people who know what's happening on the ground, people who've made the mistake so you don't have to. Joe did that, so he won't have to go through that. The statement that I say all the time, I've learned the hard lessons, investing, building, doing business in Sierra Leone, living in Ghana. And so as someone who still goes back very often, you can see that I'm not discouraged by it. I just learn to do things differently. And so that is what I'm here to do, is to help you guys all make better decisions when it comes to this. So obviously, if you guys want to do a consultation session with me, that link is in the description. Or if not, you guys can send me a message to my email. And I can, I'll be more than happy to, send you a consultation link if you want to do one. Jada had recently done a consultation with me. Hopefully it was helpful, Jada. You can let people know if you think it was. Serafina says, you're doing a great job, Joe. Thank you, Serafina. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. This is not easy. Not easy, not easy at all. Farquan says, it is wise to invest in the country you choose first, then no matter how small, and always get a professional printed out receipt for every investment. Yeah, for sure. And much more than that, right? You need verification from all the different places, for sure. Yahida says, is there a directory we have of folks that have gone through the descent program so we can connect? There's supposed to be. Unfortunately, I do not know about that. I do know people who have access to them, but not everybody wants their information out there. So that is also the challenge. So what we can do is you can shoot me a message and let me know what you're looking to do. And I can put you in touch with the person who has contact with those people, and they can let you know how to communicate with them. Not everybody wants to be communicated with when they've gone through this process. So they don't just have like a public directory. Great question. All right. Any other questions, comments? Jada says, it was very helpful, Joe. You're the best. Thank you. Of course, I had to put that comment up there. This is in regards to my consultation with Jada. That right there, guys, I need to screenshot this, right? This is good for my website. I'm not joking. I'm going to screenshot this. This is good for the website though, because I think it can act as an official endorsement from Jada. Shout out to Jada. You'll have to catch me up on if you actually ended up going to Sierra Leone and how it all went. We need to talk for sure. Let's talk. All right, guys. I think those are all the major questions and comments. I did not check on Instagram. I'm sorry, guys. Was there questions on Instagram? People been in and out on Instagram this whole time. They said, okay, somebody said, Cornell Smith says, half of ECOWAS, basically Nigeria and Ghana. Yeah, around 30 million people in Ghana, 40 million people in Nigeria. So that's 270 million out of the, 450 million they say are in West Africa. But that's about half. Yeah, about half. Okay. All right, guys. We're going to leave it at that. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. I just did a tour of TAF Salon. TAF Salon. So if you haven't seen it as of yet, that had a little rhythm to it, didn't it? And that was not on purpose. So TAF Micro City is a company that does housing in Sierra Leone, Gambia, and Nigeria. And so I recently did a tour, and I finally posted it. So just to give you guys a little bit of a...
How can my brand appear in AI search? How can...
Sorry, I have ads on my page. My bad, guys. Let's skip that. But this... himself, the MD.
The beauty of this here is from the balcony. Look at this.
Leaders are readers,
yeah,
as they say. They're doing the concept.
A raffle, yeah.
A raffle, wow. In the back, you get the mountains. In the front, you get the ocean.
Ocean, yeah.
Wow.
I really love this place when I come here. I mean, it's unbelievable.
What's up, guys? I'm Joe Hatagwa with Authentic African, and this is TAF Salon Micro City. As you can see, I stepped up the game a little bit, drone shots, etc., like what you saw with the Wandering Investments video. So if you want to see what that's all about, $80,000 homes in Sierra Leone, check out that video. It's on the page. It's the most recent video there. You can't miss it. I just did a Google for TAF Salon, and I just did a YouTube search for TAF Salon, and it just came up. But we got a little over 6,000 views so far. So check it out. I think people are finding it useful and helpful to kind of see what on-plan housing looks like in Sierra Leone when people are building houses. And many of you guys were asking me about this. Over the last couple of years, ever since I lived in Ghana, people would say to me, Joe, when are you going to do this TAF Salon tour? When are you going to go meet with them? Well, I finally did. I met the MD himself, Mr. Njai. He's a Gambian man who is built in the Gambia, who is built in Nigeria, and now he has taken on this project in Sierra Leone. So I got a chance to talk to him and his staff. We did a walking tour, and then I sat down with him and did an interview with him, and it was a really, really interesting conversation for those of you who are interested. And I also know people personally who've made purchases there. So this question Yahida has is, where is the TAF neighborhood located in Sierra Leone? I wasn't sure if it was in Freetown or not. Well, it's not in Freetown. It is in John Obey, which is on the peninsula. You know what? Let's help everyone out with where John Obey is on the map. Okay, share this tab instead. Okay, real quickly, for those of you who have a question on where this is located. So Taft Salon Micro City is here. You see it here near John Obey Beach. If you zoom out a little bit, so it's past Sussex, it's past Tokay Beach. It's all the way down here on the way to Kent. So if this is Freetown here, right? All of this is Freetown up to here, Caboton. Goderich is the outskirts of Freetown. So all this is Freetown. Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of a drive. You know, you keep driving and you get all the way down to John Obey. It's down here. About 45 minutes or so, maybe a little longer, 45 minutes to an hour. They've really improved this road here with a lot of changes. So 45 minutes to an hour outside of Freetown. And also Serafina answered that question. All right, guys. So with that, I want to say thank you again for watching. If you found this useful again, and for those of you who decided to bear with us, because I don't know what the past tense of that is, on this special edition of Inside Sierra Leone, because usually we talk about things across the continent, but I thought this would be interesting for everybody who is looking at citizenship on the continent of Africa. Sierra Leone happens to be my country of origin. I represent it every day. People always ask me if this is a Nigeria flag. It is not, because, you know, technically I think it's supposed to be the other way. But these are the Sierra Leone colors. These are not the Nigerian colors. And with that, guys, thanks for watching. See you all on the next video.